Welcome back to Hoopla. I'm your host Ethan Jackson, and today I got a pretty good episode in store for you. This is the first episode of the new year, so happy New Year to everyone. I'm excited to be back doing this on a regular basis. I had to take a little break because I was home from Christmas break, so I wasn't at school and didn't have my little setup with me. So from now on, I'm gonna try to stick to my one episode every 2 week schedule. But there's a lot going on in the NBA right now, so it may be more often than that, just depending on if there's some big news. You know, the trade rumors are starting to heat up, and the deadline is approaching next month. I think it's the beginning of February. So, you know, we're a week or two away from the halfway point of the season, but for now, since the new year has kind of just started and the halfway point is right around the corner, I wanted to use this episode to do a power rankings, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to rank my top 10 teams as of this moment. Right now, January 10th is when I'm filming this. The top 10 teams out of this moment. I want to make that clear that this is the rankings for right now. Who's playing the best basketball right now? It's based on the season they've had and the way they are playing recently. So I'm not saying these teams are the top 10 teams when it comes playoff time. It'll something that'll probably change next week. But for right now, who are the top 10 teams in the league? So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So just to quickly explain how I'm going to do this, it's pretty simple. I'm going to start with the number 10 team and work my way down to 1, so there's a little bit of suspense as to who the best teams in the league are. So, and I'll probably have a little graphic going up as I put the rankings in. So starting at number 10, the team I have ranked at number 10 is the New Orleans Pelicans. They're currently sitting at a record of 22-15, which is pretty good considering all the injuries that they've had and how many good teams there are this year. So it was kind of, injury seems something that's kind of inevitable with this team, so you kind of have to expect it. But the way they have been playing, despite all that, has been pretty impressive. For reference, right here, I have the players and the amount of missed games they've had. So C.J. McCollum has missed 13 games. He had that lung issue, which whatever was going on with his lung. Zion has missed 7 games, which is a fairly low number considering his history in recent years. But still, 7 games out of 37 is still a lot. Trey Murphy has also missed 23 games. He may get overlooked in this situation, but he is extremely important to that team and what they're trying to do. And then lastly, I have on here Alvarado has missed 15 games. That's also, he's a very important player that he brings energy, brings some effort, and just kind of some swagger to the team that when he's not out there, they miss him, even though he don't play that much and may not play in some games. He adds a little something to this team, and the fact that he's missed 15 games has hurt him. So, you know, they've had somewhat of an unlucky season injury-wise, but have still found a way to be, like I said, 22-15 and be within striking distance of as high as the 2 seed in the conference. I think the 2 seed has 11 losses, so we got 40-something games left. You still have plenty of time to try to make up that gap, and we'll see how they finish the season. But for me, it seems like, and I said this going into this, it seems like when the Pelicans are healthy, they win games. It's really that simple. When they are healthy and the team is fully loaded, they win basketball games, and that's exactly what they have been doing lately. They have been fairly healthy as of late, and they have been winning games. So that's why I have them at the 10 spot. You know, I think as the season continues to go on, they will continue to mesh together. The more time they have to play together, because even though this team has been together for 2 or 3 years, most of the pieces that have been together, they haven't had that much time on the floor together because of injuries or just whatever's been happening. So I think they hover around this 10 spot if I was to do this every week, I think they hover around the 10 spot for the rest of the year with the potential to move down and the potential to move up. So we'll see how things go for them, but for right now I have them at 10. All right, moving on. At the 9 spot, I have the Dallas Mavericks. Much like the Pelicans, they have had some injuries. Most notably, Kyrie Irving just got back from that weird freakish leg injury he had that could have been a lot worse. He missed 12 consecutive games, so that was a long absence that they had to find a way to tread water, and they did that. They were decent during that stretch. And then when he did come back, they lost to the Jazz by nearly 40, which was not a good sign and had me a little worried. But that's one of those things that you kind of expect when a star player comes back, because especially after a long stretch without him, because players get used to having a larger role, playing a different role sometimes for some players. And like Hardy on the team, he may have had to turn into a scorer and get the ball more and things like that. And it's just everybody's role is a little different when star players are out. So I always kind of expect there to be a little bit of an adjustment, whether it's one game or 2 or 3 games. But usually you can fix it very quickly, and that's what it's looked like they're doing. Because after that loss, they've won a few in a row. They actually last night they just lost to the Grizzlies without Ja, which is not a good sign. But one of those games they just won was to me their biggest win of the season. That was against the Timberwolves. Yes, it was at home, but it was still a very good win. Both teams were fully healthy, and like that's the West leading Timberwolves. Say what you want about them, they're still the leading the Western Conference. So that was a good win in my opinion, and just overall they've been playing some pretty good basketball as of late, and I think they're going to continue that for the foreseeable future, and that's why I have them ranked at number 9 right now. So at number 10, I have the Pelicans. At number 9, I have the Dallas Mavericks. So on the number 8. At number 8, I have the New York Knicks. First, I have to admit that I have not really been watching many Knicks games this season, mainly because I do not like Julius Randle. I shouldn't say I don't like Julius Randle. I don't like his play style, and it's nothing against him. It's just that there's just something about that his game that's just I don't find it appealing at all. Maybe it's the amount of ISO ball. Maybe it's he doesn't really have a flashy quirk. He just doesn't really have a game. It's just kind of quirky, and he gets the job done. And there's no doubt that he's a very productive player and a great player. But I don't really enjoy watching him play. So if there's another game on that I can watch, I flip the channel. I'm not even gonna lie about it. So, however, though, after that trade, I will for sure have to watch more of their games, and I've already watched a couple of them just to kind of see how Anunoby fits into this team, and it seems to be going pretty well so far, in my opinion. I mean, speaking of that trade real fast, I mean, I've heard mixed opinions about it. In my opinion, I love the move. Once again, when I say this, it's nothing against RJ Barrett, but I just don't think he was a great fit on this team. They have 2 of the most ball-dominant players in the league in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and to me, RJ Barrett is another player that needs the ball to be effective, and it's hard to find your role when you've got 2 other ball-dominant players and you also need the ball. And so to me, it just looked like he kind of struggled to find his place, and he's, like I said, he's not the greatest off-ball player. So I think the move is good for him personally. I think he's going to thrive in Toronto, where he gets to have the ball in his hands, and he gets to prove himself to be someone that they may want to be part of their future as a hometown kid. But on the Knicks and the OG Anunoby side of things, I think this is a great fit. It gives them the long, athletic, defensive wing that I think they have kind of been searching for over the last few years. But he does not only help them out on that end. He unlike Barrett, he has proven in Toronto and already in his few games with the Knicks. They're 5-0 since they got him. He's proven that he can be a good off-ball player, and that he is able to be a above-average three-point shooter at, let's see, I have it here at 37%, and has shown flashes of how good he can be as a cutter when it comes to cutting to the rim and the timing of it, and just using his big body and athleticism to do that. So I think this was a good move for the Knicks, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they finish the rest of the season. But even with all that said, the Knicks were a tough team for me to rank, just because they're not great offensively and they're not great defensively. They are just kind of solid at both, and the stats will prove that. I think that is on its way to changing now. There was a stat I just seen earlier, actually, and said since the trade they have had the best defense in the league based on some different statistics. So hopefully they move to the top of the league on that end and can stay there, and that'll allow them to really hang their hat on something. And I know Coach Tibbs will love that, to be able to hang their hat on defense, but it would also allow me to have some more clarity about them and how good they can be. But with all that being said, they just weirdly they just find ways to win games on a consistent basis, and that is why right now I have them as the 8th best team in the league, in my opinion. Up next at number 7, I have the Miami Heat. Where do I don't even know where to start with the Heat. I have no idea what it is, but they just find ways year after year after year to be competitive and to be good in this league. I don't know who deserves the most credit for their success. I don't know if it's Pat Riley, the Godfather, as they call him. I don't know if it's Coach Spo, who just got his contract extension, or Jimmy Butler with his leadership and style that he has. So that's a different question for another time. I'm not going to try to tackle that here, but all I know is they just find ways to get the job done. It's that simple. They've somehow found a way to be 21 and 15. While Jimmy Butler has missed a third of the season so far, and they're still well above 500, 6 games above 500. But I mean, just looking at it, the main reasons for their success is this season has been the fact that Bam, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson are all having career best years, and also that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is continuing to prove that he's, in my opinion, one of the three most impactful rookies in this class. So it's they're having a good year. I can't wait for Jimmy to get back, and they're just one of those teams that just consistently find a way to win games. It's getting to the point where it's like I have no idea what to say about them, so I'm not even going to try to keep talking about it and trying to find ways to describe it. But just know that they are still one of the top 10 teams in the league in my eyes, and right now I have them ranked at 7th. At 6, I have the 76ers. So for the 76ers, I'll start with the fact that Tyrese Maxey is still balling. He has proven that it was not just a hot start to the season. I believed he was emerging before our eyes, but I have to admit that I was not 100% sure he could keep up the level of play that he had to start the season, but he's proven me wrong, and he's done just that. His stats I have right here, he's still averaging 26 points a game and almost 7 assists. And so I think it's that time where we accept that he's an all-star caliber guard and has the potential to become a superstar. And him and Embiid could be a pairing to be reckoned with for the foreseeable future. And then right there, I just talked about Embiid. Also, Embiid is back in the MVP conversation once again. And the bad thing about it is he's probably not going to win it this year, but he is having a better season this year than he did last year when he won the MVP. So it's just it's a weird situation because until I looked before writing these notes for this, I did not realize it. But Embiid is averaging almost 35 points a game, and his assist numbers are way up. I knew he had been dominant and had that long stretch in the month of December where he was just really dominant, but I didn't know he was doing all that. So I got to give him his props. And then as far as some role players on the team, Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris have been doing their thing, just kind of fitting in, getting in where they fit in, just being consistent. And they're the third and fourth scoring options that are just consistently giving them something on a nightly basis. And then also while I'm talking about the Sixers, I wanted to touch on a few things that I said about them before the season. And those things are those people I should say are Nick Nurse and Pat Bev. Both of them have had an overwhelmingly positive impact on this team, in my opinion. So for Nick Nurse, it seems to me like he's making Embiid get his big butt in the mid-post and free throw line area and just dominate in that area of the floor. And that's why he's having such an efficient season, because he had a tendency in the past to just kind of drift around at the three-point line, which I know they had Harden, and it was a weird fit when Embiid was in the paint and just kind of wasn't the perfect fit. But this year he's staying down there where he needs to be, and I think Nick Nurse has also helped to unleash Maxey. Also, obviously it's got something to do with Harden leaving and his role increasing, but it seems to me like Nick Nurse came in and specifically designated roles to each player on this team, and it seems like the players are kind of buying into those roles, and no pun intended, but they're trusting the process, and it's working so far. And so I think Nick Nurse is really doing a good job with this team. And then lastly, I think Pat Bev has also had an impact on the mentality of this team. I'm not saying he's the only reason, but it seems like this year they are more sure of themselves, and they know they're one of the best teams in the league, and they're playing like it. And I think he has a lot to do with that, just the confidence and arrogance may not be the right word, but just the mentality, the dog mentality, as he calls it, that he brings to this team. So I think he's helped them out a lot. But the 76ers, it feels like we get high on the 76ers every year just for them to flame out in the playoffs. But this ranking is not about the playoffs. Like I said, I've said it numerous times, so I have to. This is about right now and how good they're playing right now. So that's why I have them as the 6th best team in the league right now. So before we get into the top 5, I want to do a quick recap real fast. At 10, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. At 9, I have the Dallas Mavericks. At 8, I have the New York Knicks. 7, I have the Heat. And at 6, I have the 76ers. So now let's get into the top 5 teams in the league right now, in my opinion. So at number 5, it's actually the team the 76ers did some business with earlier in this year, and that's the LA Clippers. I want to take the first moment to admit that I was wrong. When I did my reaction to the trade, I said that I didn't think it was going to work, but they have completely turned things around since that rough start they had. I think it was an 0-5 start when they first got Harden, and since then, they have been nothing but dominant, and it's really been that simple. As LeBron said the other night, this isn't the whatever he said. This isn't the James Harden Clippers. This is the Ty Lue Clippers. He has been doing a heck of a job coaching this team, and I cannot wait to, when it comes playoff time, I cannot wait to see this team with him as the coach and that amount of talent on the floor, what they're capable of in a 7-game series. So I cannot wait to see that. But for right now, I think they're at 5 and still have a lot of room for improvement. But right now, I have them at 5. But with all that talk about Ty Lue, I can't give all the credit to him, because at the end of the day, it's up to the players whether they're going to make the necessary sacrifices in order to win. So I have to give some credit to every player on this team, and that starts with James Harden. He came in with all that talk about, I am the system and all this mess. I'm not a system player. I am the system. But to me, it looks like he's back more into kind of the point guard role like he played when he was in Brooklyn, and he did it in Philly, obviously. And when he first went to Brooklyn, that was kind of when my opinion of him changed, because I honestly thought he was a one-dimensional player that had to be ball dominant, that had to play iso ball, this, and that. But when he went to Brooklyn and kind of seamlessly just slid into that team with KD and Kyrie and was playing MVP basketball at the time, he was in the conversation for best player in the world. I remember seeing some of the talk shows talk about that, but that was when I changed my tune about him. And he's doing that exact same thing right now with Kawhi and Paul George. He's not playing nearly as good as he was in Brooklyn, but he's just kind of fell back. He's averaging like 17 and 8 assists and just kind of accepting his role and doing his thing and doing what the team asked him to do. And speaking of Kawhi and PG is simply playing some good basketball. That's all there is to it. I don't feel like there's much to say about him. Besides that, he's just been consistent all year. He's playing and playing good when he plays. So the last one I wanted to really discuss is and the one I wanted to talk about the most is Kawhi Leonard. I have to give credit where credit's due. He is playing. He is playing so well. Let me start there. He is playing basketball games. That's the biggest thing, is he is playing basketball games on a consistent basis. He's played 31 games already this year, so I have to give him his props there. But he's playing some of, if not the best, basketball of his career. He has been just as good, if not better, than he was in Toronto and some of his late Spurs years. He's back to the point where he looks healthy. He don't look like his knees are bothering him. And on any night, he can be the best player on the floor. And when it comes playoff time in any playoff series, he can be the best player in the series. And he's still on that level, and I hope he keeps it up. But, the scary part about this team is that they are still figuring things out. They just went on an eight-game winning streak a few weeks ago, and that's what's scary about it. They still got a lot to figure out, and they could really become a lot better as the season progresses. But as of right now, I think they are top 5, and they are the 5th best team in the league. So moving on to number 4, the team I have at number 4, and I think most people would say that this is a complete surprise, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have been, I have to admit, they have been a complete surprise to me this season. Going into the year, I said they were, I think the phrase I used was scary dangerous, which was where I had them at in my tier list that I did at the time. I expressed my hesitation over their lack of identity. I didn't think they were going to be able to find it, and I was blatantly wrong on that, because it seems like they have figured out exactly who they want to be and the style of basketball that they want to play and what they want to, like I said about the Knicks, what they want to hang their hat on. And that thing is defense. They have been the best, or they not even have been. They are the best defensive team in the league right now, according to just about every statistic. They passed the eye test on that end of the floor. When I watch their games, it seems like teams and other players cannot get good looks on them, like at all. Like for the 48 minutes, every shot seems like it's contested or it's late in the shot clock or just whatever. So I have to admit that I have been pretty impressed with how good they look on the defensive end of the floor. But there was also a few things that I said before the season that I've been right about, and that's why they're at 4 and not higher. Is the first thing was real quick, the first thing I wanted to say was that I said Anthony Edwards was going to take that leap into officially, becoming the guy on this team, becoming the team leader, and he's done that. He is another one that has to at least be in the MVP conversation. His numbers aren't on the level of some of the other people that are in that conversation, but he's the best player. It's that old argument, the best player on the best team should win the MVP. He is the best player on a team with one of the best records in the league right now, and I'm just loving what I'm seeing from him. But the other thing I talked about was how I thought they would always have offensive struggles just due to their roster construction, and it looks like that has been the case so far. The only reason like I said, the only reason they're not higher on the list is because of this right here. They are not good on offense. Matter of fact, they're 19th in offensive rating, which is almost bottom third in the leagues, and that's not best team in the league material right there. So honestly, I try to think. I'm not sure what they can do to try to fix this. I think that was something that was inherent with the current roster makeup they have right now. But I knew one thing this team had a chance to do and had the potential to do was to be one of the best defensive team in the league. And they have lived up to that potential so far, and that's why they have a great record, and that's why they're the fourth best team in the league. So now on to the top three teams. I struggled ranking these top three, but after some time I decided that at the 3 spot I'm going to put the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. It was tough for me not to put the Nuggets at 1 or 2 simply because they are the defending champs, and I believe in that whole cliche that to be the man you got to beat the man, but I caught myself and kind of realized that, as I've said, that this is not about who should be the favorites to win the championship and who should do this in the playoffs, this and that, but this is about who is playing the best basketball at this moment. And to me, there's 2 teams. It's nothing against them. They are playing great basketball, but there are 2 teams that are playing better right now, and that's why I have the Nuggets ranked at 3. So with that being said, I don't have much to say about them either positively or negatively. They are doing exactly what we thought they would do. I mean, I've seen some signs of that championship hangover that I talked about before the season. I think that's the only reason, along with some injuries. Jamal Murray missed some time. Aaron Gordon just got done missing a few games. But that's the only reason as to why they don't have the best record in the league again. I think Jokic is being Jokic, having another MVP season. He just had, as a matter of fact, he just had that crazy stretch where he was like 39 for 44 or something like that over a 4-game stretch, and that was, so he's playing better than he ever has, which is scary to even hear come out of my mouth. But I'm enjoying watching Jokic, and it's just I'm becoming more and more of a fan every time I watch a game of his. And then for Jamal Murray, he's doing that same thing he always does, which is, for some reason in the regular season he goes down to averaging like 20 points a game compared to his 30 that he averages in the playoffs. So I don't know what the reason for that is, but he's doing that. He's averaging 20. He's playing some fairly good basketball, but nothing special. And then that starting unit is really what's keeping their record so good, and why they're still the 3rd best team in the league right now is arguably that's still the best starting 5 in the league. You have Boston and you have some other teams that can get in that conversation, but to me that's still the best starting 5 in the league. But I think most of their struggles have come outside of that, and it's coming from trying to ingrain those young guys into the system and trying to get them playing time and experience so they'll be ready when it comes that time. So this is an issue I knew they would kind of have to deal with, but the fact that they are still 3rd in the conference while doing that and implementing the young guys into the team is a really good sign in my opinion. And that's really all I have to say about the Nuggets. They're still very clearly one of the best teams in this league, but like I said, there's still 2 teams in front of them that I think are playing better basketball than them. So now we're moving on to the top 2 teams, and by far these were the toughest teams to rank in my opinion. I went back and forth in my head for a long time and changed it 2 or 3 times, but ultimately I landed on the Boston Celtics being the second in these rankings. They were almost number 1, but there was one thing that was keeping me from putting them at the number 1 spot. Because as dominant as they have been all season, they are still having some of the same problems that they have always had in this little run that they've had over the last 5 or 6 years, and that's kind of troublesome for me. They're still showing signs of struggle down the stretch of close clutch time games and situations. So to me, this is worrisome because we know exactly what the problem is, and I believe they do as well, but they do not seem to be fixing it. They still have situations and sometimes full games where they do not take advantage of their ability to get downhill towards the rim and just wreak havoc on any team in this league. With the size and athleticism and skill level they have at every position, they should continuously attack the rim. Because, the 3-point shooting is fine and good when they're going in, and when they stop, that's when it becomes an issue. And that's why, to me, they need to constantly be putting pressure on the rim to prevent themselves from having to shoot contested threes and contested jumpers, which is a thing that they do often, and that's what's preventing them from being as good as they can and being the favorites and best team in the league by far. But that's been the only problem with this team for me. Other than that, they have been nothing short of dominant. They have the best record in the league currently. They are second in both offensive rating and defensive rating, as well as being first in net rating. So all that would tell you they're the best, but it's that one thing that's keeping me from putting them here. And their play of late has not been great, has not been on par with the rest of their season. So, like I said, they have been dominant and have been the best team in the league for the majority of the season. But for the last few weeks, I think there's a team that's better than them. Like, just for them specifically real fast, they have 5 guys averaging in double digits. Tatum has to be back in the MVP conversation for the same reason I said about Anthony Edwards. He's the best player on the best team in the league right now, record-wise. Matter of fact, I think his name isn't even getting brought up, and it should be getting brought up some more. And then, obviously, you got Jaylen Brown. He's continuing to improve. Porzingis and Holiday kind of fit perfectly into this team, exactly how I thought they would. And lastly, Derek White. He continues to become one of my favorite players in the league. He's one of the most underrated players in this league, and I don't think there's really any doubt about it. And he just continues to get overlooked, and he's just a good basketball player. That's all there is. As a matter of fact, he's a great basketball player, just playing the role he needs to play, and he's good on both ends of the floor, and he's really key to them winning the championship this year, I think. So I don't have too much negative to say about the Celtics other than that point I made earlier. That's why they're lower than 2, and then probably won't drop lower than 2 at any point throughout the season. But if they show some more growth in that area and in late game situations, they would probably never leave the number 1 spot this year unless somebody just starts playing lights out basketball. So right now for me, the Celtics are the second best team in the league. All right, so finally, who's the best team in the league right now? Some of you may have already guessed it, and based on who I've left off and who I haven't named. But in my opinion, the young, up-and-coming Oklahoma City Thunder are the best team in the league right now. And there's no denying it, in my opinion. There's not another team in this league that you can point to and say they're playing better basketball than the Thunder right now. You may think some teams should be favored when it comes playoff time, but right now they're simply not a team better. In recent weeks, they have beaten the defending champs Nuggets twice. They have beat the Timberwolves. They snapped the Clippers' 8-game winning streak, and they beat the Celtics. All of those teams are top 5 teams in my ranking, and they have beaten all of them in recent weeks. To me, that was the deciding factor when deciding who would top my list. If we look at the numbers, they may show that the Celtics are better, the Nuggets are better, but sometimes you have to go by the eye test because numbers do not mean everything. And so by the eye test, along with plenty of numbers that back it up, the Thunder are playing the best basketball in the league right now, and they are the best team in the league right now. So, what makes them the best team in the league? I'm going to talk about 3 things real quick. Obviously, SGA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is to me, he has to be at the top of the MVP conversation right now just because of there's nobody else on his team that has really established a name for themselves like Jokic has Jamal Murray and Tatum has Brown and Holiday, and he's with a bunch of young guys who one day may become players that are on that level, but right now they're still trying to make a name for themselves. So he's the best player on that team. So he has to be at the top of that conversation. He's going into the season. If I would have did a player ranking, I wouldn't have really known where to rank him. He would have been somewhere top 10 range, somewhere around there, top 10, maybe a little bit outside. But as the days go on and he keeps playing the way he's playing, he is moving up that list slowly but surely. And if you just look at his numbers right here, he's averaging 31, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2.5 steals. Those are pretty impressive numbers. I think I seen some stuff, which I always take that stuff with a grain of salt, what it was talking about him and MJ were the only ones that averaged 35 and 5 and 2.5 steals. But obviously there's a reason there's no other player but MJ to do it, so it's still pretty impressive. So I just got to give my props to SGA. I also want to talk about Jalen Williams and Chet for a second. They are great secondary players to play with SGA. They are both averaging roughly 18 points a game on 50, 40, 80 shooting splits. So they are just fitting in perfectly around him. They're playing their role. They're being efficient when they're asked to do stuff. They're stepping up, making big plays, and that's just good to see from young guys like that, and especially these young teams. And then the most important thing for me is the buy-in and the belief from everyone on this roster. although they have a superstar in SGA and some more stars on the rise in Chet and J-Dub, they still play great basketball and good team basketball. They can, honestly, more than any other team in the league, they consistently pass up good shots for great shots. And I know that's a cliche that coaches use and stuff, but when you watch them play, it legitimately feels like they get an open look or a good shot on every possession. And I don't feel like I'm exaggerating saying that. I mean, I'm sure I am, but it feels like that when you're watching it. And that hints to me why they're shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three as a team, which is almost unheard of, and that's why they're so good. They're really connected on that end of the floor, and it's fun to watch, especially with the young kind of college atmosphere they have going on around the team. But they're not just good on the offense end; they are just connected on defense as they are on offense. They are long, athletic, young, trying to prove themselves, so they're playing really hard on that end, and they just have a lot of versatility. So they have a lot of different lineups they can run. They have they can switch a lot of matchups. They can go big, they can go small, just whatever. They just have a great collection of talent on that team, and they're playing some great basketball right now. I know they got a tough stretch coming up with a bunch of road games. I think it's like 11 out of 14 games are on the road, so we'll see if they can keep it up. But I love this team and the way they're playing right now. And to me, the Thunder are in a unique situation. Many people in the media and even just your average fans like me are starting to take notice of them and kind of realize that they are already one of the best teams in the league. Like right now, a lot of people would say they are not a tier 1 championship contender just because of the age, but they would probably admit that they're on their way towards becoming that. And that's exactly where their unique situation comes from. They have the third best record in the NBA this year, with all these good teams, and all while SGA continues to emerge. The young guys keep developing, and they have 15 first-round picks over the next few years. Yes, that's right. You heard that right. 15 first-round picks over the next few years. So to me, they have two options. They could sit on these picks and keep building this team internally, keep drafting players and building this team naturally through the draft and hope they turn this thing into a dynasty and just keep replacing talent that they have to lose because they can't pay them, replacing it with younger talent and maybe some better talent and finding another superstar to go along with SGA, and they could do it that way, or they could use those picks and a couple of young guys to make one or more or a few trades to go all in for the immediate right now chance at a championship. If you ask me, I'm going back and forth on this. I don't know what I would do if I was in Sam Presti's situation, but I guess that's why he gets paid the big bucks. On one hand, I could definitely understand if they want to continue to build this thing through the draft to try to turn the Thunder into the NBA's next dynasty. But on the other hand, I could see, and I'm well aware that no matter how good of a team you build through the draft, there's no guarantee that at any point over the next 10 years you were ever able to build a championship team doing that. Nor is there a guarantee that making a trade guarantees you a championship. But building a dynasty is nearly impossible because of the money, the egos, and many other obstacles that come up and just the things that have to go right over that time to build a dynasty. So the question becomes, do we attempt to go all in the next 2 to 3 years to get one championship? Or do we stay patient and hope we build a squad that can compete for championships for the next 10 years? That's the gambit, as they say. That's the big question. So, I mean, what do you think they should do? Should they go all in and try to get one this year, next year, and worry about the future later? Or should they be patient and hope they turn this thing into a 10, 15-year run where they try to get multiple championships? So that does it for my power rankings. I want to run through the list again real quick before I wrap up. At 10, I have the Pelicans. At 9, I have the Dallas Mavericks. At 8, I have the New York Knicks. At 7, I have the Miami Heat. At 6, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. At 5, I have the Clippers. At 4, I have the Timberwolves. At 3, I have the Nuggets. At 2, I have the Celtics. And at 1, I have the Thunder. And trust me, I'm very aware that I left off the Bucks, although they are the 2 seed in the East. I just see some very glaring issues with this team, and I'm not seeing any real effort to fix those issues. And they're having a rough stretch at this moment. I think they've lost like 4 of their last 5 or something over the last week. So at this moment, they're not a top 10 team in the league. I also left off the Kings because I'm not liking what I'm seeing from them. Their offense is not nearly as prolific as it was last year, and their defense is still bottom third. And that's not a formula for successful basketball. And to me, they're one of those teams that's going to be looking to be pretty active in the trade market over the next month. So we'll see how it goes with them. Another team I left off is the Suns. I struggled to leave it off just because based on their big three, it would be easy to just kind of always put them in the top 10 just because of the talent they have at the top. But I'm just not seeing good stuff from them right now. If you ask me, are they a top 10 title contender, I would probably still tell you yes, because I would say that they have some time to figure this thing out. They're barely just now getting the big three some time together, but at this moment, they are not playing anywhere near championship basketball. So we'll see if they find a way to turn things around now that they're starting to get healthy. But those are the main three that I realized I left off that some of you may have an issue with. But that's going to do it for my rankings and this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on this rankings below if you have any issues with it, if you think I should change something, or comment your top 10 or top 3, whatever you want to do below. But I have been your host, Ethan Jackson. Thanks for tuning in to Hoopla. Until next time.